As the verse elucidates, the heavens and earth were both joined together, interwoven, and then Allah disjoined the two. In other words, heaven and earth have split apart, and the two are split apart in a specific direction, upwards perpendicular to the surface of the earth. And now, during the unraveling of phase 2, heaven has disintegrated into gas, smoke, dukhan, and a lot more is happening here simultaneously. And there are also many other things that only Allah knows that are not being shown. It's important to note that night and daylight have almost completed 2 full cycles, days, for the creation of Earth before the big split, phase 2. Recall that the starting point of each cycle, day, was on the March equinox, the vernal equinox. This means day 3 of the creation of heavens and earth starts around March 21. However, there is something heavenly shattering in Surah 21 verse 30. Notice that the verse starts by questioning the disbelievers. Haven't they seen that the heavens and the earth were both an interwoven entity, joined together? This is telling us that there is something we can observe in the heavens and see a direct connection with earth. So the question is, did the disbelievers discover something like this? And the answer is yes. They made an important discovery between May 20, 1964 to 2009, trying to prove that the heavens and the earth were both a joint entity, but in their version. And this is exactly what the results of the CMB radiation are. However, it backfired on them. What is the CMB? The cosmic microwave background radiation is the largest cosmic observable structure in the universe that we have measured. It is the afterglow of what they call the Big Bang, and it represents the oldest light in the universe, permeating all of the observable space ever captured. So what you are looking at is the results of the last cosmic microwave background by the Planck Satellite mission, operated by the European Space Agency, ESA. It was launched in 2009 and collected data for about 4 years, until 2013, which was also the year they released this first all-sky map of the CMB. The backstory behind this is what caught my attention and truly exposed the level of disbelief from the individuals at the highest levels. Here's an oversimplified version of it, and you can be the judge of their disbelief and how incredibly relevant 2130 is in regards to this. So, the CMB was discovered in 1965 by 2 physicists by accident. They were tasked with using an antenna to communicate with satellites and spacecrafts. However, they encountered an unexpected problem, a persistent background noise that interfered with their attempts. The classic static on old TVs, for those who remember. After ruling out various sources, they realized they had stumbled upon faint background radiation pervading the entire sky. This accidental discovery turned out to be the long-predicted remnant radiation known as the CMB, which has a nearly uniform intensity and is present in all directions. They soon produced the first picture of the CMB and received the 1978 Nobel Prize in Physics for their discovery. They noticed that when you remove the plane of our Milky Way galaxy, the CMB is almost 2.73 Kelvin in temperature everywhere. This is what the Satanic, Copernican, and cosmological principle states, that their universe is homogeneous and isotropic. And based on this, many cosmologists were convinced and strongly favored the Big Bang theory. But as you can see in the Quranic model, the heavens and the earth were joined together like 2 large powerful magnets and then split apart by Allah. This also causes there to be almost the same temperature everywhere in all parts of the sky. This option was not even considered in their assessment. However, this was 1965 technology. The universe is so massive that they needed to be more precise, and they also theorized that there must have been some tiny variations of temperature for galaxy and star formation and eventually their concept of the Earth. From here, this is where things take a sharp turn. About 24 years later, in 1989, NASA's COBE, Cosmic Background Explorer, satellite was launched to provide precise measurements of the CMB radiation, and tiny variations about this average temperature of only 2.725 Kelvin were first discovered. This mission cost around $160 million at that time. At that moment, they proved that the sky is not isotropic, having a physical property that has the same value when measured in different directions, but instead anisotropic, This means that there are large-scale irregularities, anisotropies, in the CMB radiation. There were some glaring problems with what they found and disagreements. Some noticed that the data suggested a preferred location or direction in the universe. This implies damaging implications for the standard model of cosmology and the Copernican principle, which states that Earth does not inhabit a special place in the universe. So 12 years later, in 2001, with another $150 million, the Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe, WMAP, another NASA space mission, was launched to a more precise test and confirm whether the findings were true or false. Hence, the WMAP followed up with the COBE results by characterizing the detailed statistical nature of the CMB temperature variations, anisotropy, revealing a wealth of detail about the properties of the universe, the entire sky above us. WMAP mapped the CMB with higher resolution and greater sensitivity than COBE. As a result, in 2005, a paper titled "The Axis of Evil" was published and provided evidence that there is an unusual alignment of the preferred axis of the quadrupole and the octupole in the cosmic microwave background radiation, CMB, temperature and polarization data by the Wilkinson Microwave Anisotropy Probe, WMAP. In simple words, there is an asymmetry in the universe in the relic radiation, which is reflected in the temperature fluctuations that span on a greater scale than even galaxies. Look how shocked they were by the WMAP data to prove COBE wrong, but came back and punched them in the face. It confirmed what they feared and they disbelieved in it. This means that there are large-scale irregularities, anisotropies, in the CMB radiation within the all-sky data. This was so destructive to their belief that they called one of the most expensive and powerful proofs of God's creation the axis of evil, as this paper implies negative implications for the standard model of cosmology and the satanic Copernican principle, which states that we are not in a special place in the universe, in other words, insignificant. Their disbelief in the data regarding the axis of evil was so intense that 8 years after the WMAP satellite launch, a completely different sky surveyor operated by the European Space Agency, ESA, launched the Planck Satellite mission. This was more expensive than COBE and WMAP combined. Planck's estimated cost was approximately 700 million euros, which is almost $1 billion, almost 3 times the cost of COBE and WMAP. Planck was expected by many to show instead that the strange CMB axis of evil was nothing more than just foreground noise contamination or a scanning beam anomaly somehow missed by the WMAP team. Hence, the total estimated cost for these 3 missions combined would be approximately over $1.2 billion. Therefore, the Planck satellite launched by ESA, took what has been described as the most expensive single picture in history. This picture is a highly detailed map of the CMB and has once again officially confirmed what they call the axis of evil. We have 2 different sky surveys, WMAP and Planck, showing the exact same patterns. This leads to the implication that the location of Earth has a greater significance, which is a departure from the Copernican sun worshipper principle. Additionally, this means we have a special place here on Earth, in the universe. Thus, the results of the CMB emphasize our place in God's creation. We are very significant. All eyes are on us on God's level Earth. The disbelief of the disbelievers has been exposed with their titling of the axis of evil, which in turn should be called the axis of truth, since Allah created the heavens and earth with the truth, al-haq, titling the axis of evil as if they know that the satanic Copernicanism is about to be overturned by the all-sky CMB evidence. Look at what the original paper begins with by assuring their audience that the homogeneity and isotropy of the universe, also known as the Copernican principle, is a major postulate of modern cosmology. One may expect that the ever-improving observations of CMB fluctuations should lead to the greatest vindication of this principle. But in the same breath, they admit there have been a number of disturbing claims of evidence for a preferred direction in the universe. In other words, God's level earth and firmaments. And that these claims have potentially very damaging implications for the standard model of cosmology. In other words, the Big Bang Theory. They add that they hope the observed axis of evil could be the result of galactic foreground contamination. But in the end, they admit they were unable to blame these effects on foreground contamination or large-scale systematic errors, and are desperately hoping to find an answer to this anomaly in order to save the Copernican sun worshipper principle. As stated earlier, this peculiar alignment or symmetry and preferred direction have been confirmed by both WMAP and Planck Satellite observations, indicating it is not a statistical fluke but a persistent feature of the CMB, costing over $1 billion. To appreciate how powerful the preferred direction and alignment are, the symmetries, here's a quick overview of the harmonic multipole data of the all-sky CMB regarding the axis of evil. So within the data, 3 symmetries shouldn't care about each other at all, which kind of lie in the same plane. This was coined the cosmological axis of evil. Those 3 things are the dipole, the quadrupole, and the octupole. The CMB dipole is aligned symmetrical with the Earth's equinoxes. The quadrupole anisotropy represents fluctuations in temperature on larger scales compared to the dipole. It shows a symmetrical pattern that is associated with the ecliptic plane. The octupole anisotropy refers to temperature fluctuations on even larger scales, and it also shows a symmetrical pattern that is associated with the ecliptic plane. This is how the researchers who are studying the CMB noticed something strange about the pattern of these bumps and wiggles. They eventually noticed something strange about 2 of these, the octupole and the quadrupole, that they were aligned and there was a symmetrical line dividing the 2. You would expect in an isotropic universe, random universe, that each one of these poles, each time you take a smaller patch and look at the distribution of patches, that the size all around the sky, the alignment of hot patches and cold patches should be totally random every time. But it wasn't. The quadrupole and the octupole were within a few degrees of each other. There should be no connection whatsoever. But it's a little bit cooler when we look above and a little bit hotter when we look below the dipole, and that is aligned with the alignment of the octupole and the quadrupole. Hence, we have these 3 things that shouldn't care about each other at all kind of lie in the same plane. And so this was the cosmological axis of evil. 3 symmetries in cosmology working together and are confirmed by WMAP and Planck Satellite. So completely different missions, different equipment, different strategies, and different electronics, but a lot of different teams, and the Planck team got the same result, and the disbelievers don't know what the axis of evil is. Hence, what they don't understand, they then disbelieve in these findings since it destroys their belief. Let's now come back to phase 2 and reread Surah 21 verse 30 and see what all this actually means thanks to Allah through the Quran. And have not those who disbelieved seen that the heavens and the earth were both an interwoven entity, joined together? We then disunited the 2, tore them apart, and we made from water every living thing. Then will they not believe? Now let's look at the CMB from a God's level Earth point of view and represent the data on an azimuthal equidistant projection with the dipole, quadrupole, and octupole. We have a very specific date that the CMB radiation, this light that Allah has frozen in time for us to find. As it turns out, the dipole is symmetrically aligned with the Earth's equinoxes, and the quadrupole and the octupole are aligned symmetrically with the ecliptic equinox, the night and daylight, sun and moon's path, falak. This is therefore pinpointing a specific date. Even more amazing is the fact that the alignment of the CMB with the ecliptic and equinoxes will be seen from any observation point in heaven, exactly how we are visualizing it now. So the moment day 3 of creation, the splitting of heaven and earth, very subtle temperature anisotropies, minute temperature fluctuations stamped that date for future generations, us to see, just like 2130 says. Hence, we are at an extraordinary time. So this means this date is unique as well as our exact position in God's creation. Anywhere you direct your face, the CMB radiation, its light is there. So what date is radiating in the sky? Heaven. Let's see. Let's start with the quadrupole and octupole, and then the dipole will align with them, intersecting the date precisely. This is what the original data from the Planck Satellite looks like. These components exhibit a degree of symmetry with the axis of evil, particularly around the ecliptic equinox at near 0 degrees ecliptic longitude. So this circle right here. This symmetry implies that the anisotropies observed in the CMB data are aligned with the orientation of the ecliptic equinox. This was so noticeable because the ecliptic equinox is one of the most important reference points of the ecliptic coordinate system and the center circle of the astrolabe. The astrolabe greatly facilitated the measurement of the ecliptic coordinate system and understanding of the celestial coordinates, contributing to the refinement and advancement of astronomical knowledge. Thus, we Muslims during the Golden Age helped advance the field of astronomy, and the astrolabe was used for various astronomical phenomena, such as the positions of the sun and stars along the ecliptic. In other words, as you look at the all-sky CMB map of the quadrupole and the octupole, the axis of evil essentially describes the ecliptic equinox, which is nearly 0 degrees ecliptic longitude. This is a specific date. The dipole component of the CMB radiation is also aligned or symmetrical with the Earth's equinoxes. The dipole represents a large-scale temperature variation across the sky, with one half appearing slightly warmer and the other slightly cooler. Doesn't this look familiar? This is nearly identical to the symmetry of night and daylight that we saw during the creation of the heavenly clock. As hinted a bit earlier, imagine the heavens and earth were joined together like two large powerful magnets, and night occupies one half and daylight the other half of one of the magnets. The night is cooler and daylight is warmer, and then Allah splits the two, heaven and earth, apart upwards. Thus we have like a timestamp of the date of creation imprinted in the sky via tiny temperature fluctuations or anisotropies of the CMB radiation, light. And that date is March 21, the vernal equinox. The dipole gives it away. As you can see, heaven is divided into two halves, but the vernal equinox around March 21 is slightly angled at approximately 1.54 degrees towards the northeast. This differentiates the autumnal equinox, which is slightly angled towards the northwest due to the sun's path across the sky, the analemma. Henceforth, the most precise data regarding the CMB by the Planck Satellite, costing almost $1 billion, was released in 2013, the same year the Seven Heavens video was launched. It's fascinating to note that the numeric representation of March 21st, which is 0321, the US format, or 2103, European format, and the year 2013 are anagrams of each other. The digits in a number form a different number with the same digits. What's even more coincidental is that the surah and verse that directly hints at the results in the CMB that we just went through, Surah 21 verse 30, the splitting of the heavens and earth verse, also form the same anagram of the numeric representation of March 21st. Surah 21 verse 30 looks exactly like 0321 or 2103. Are these just coincidences, or are these clear signs? To top it all off, the date of the results of the CMB Planck Satellite was released on March 21st, 2013. And that is after they analyzed the data. Coincidence? Or are they also fully aware of the significance of this date? Additionally, the CMB data provides evidence that the universe is flat. The CMB data conclusively establishes that the universe has almost the same temperature everywhere, almost, suggesting it's flat in 3D space-time. The universe's flat geometry behaves like a flat sheet of paper on large scales. So imagine drawing a triangle on this gigantic sheet. Its angles add up to 180 degrees, just like in flat geometry. If it were curved, like a sphere or a saddle, the angles of the CMB triangles would be different, greater than 180 or less than 180 degrees. But they are not. So the universe appears flat like a sheet of paper based on what we see in the CMB. Ask any astrophysicist. Therefore, the CMB data proves the Quranic model of the split, day 3, and God's level Earth is extremely significant and we have great importance in Allah's creation. And now, this is where we insert Surah 79:30 from where we left off in the previous video, the creation of God's clock, heaven, in this high level QTC. And he darkened her night, وَأَغْطَشَ لَيْلَهَا, and he brought forth, emanated, emerged her forenoon brightness. And the earth, after that, he leveled, spread out, flattened her. 79:30 is the main verse that Muslim globe earthers use to justify Earth being egg-shaped. Note how we are informed in Surah 79 verse 30 that after heaven was made symmetrical, and her height was raised, and night and a time frame of daylight were created, the earth was flattened, spread out. Daha. This past tense Arabic form 1 verb has been purposely misinterpreted to fit the globe earth deception. They think the verb daha means either egg-shaped or oval. Yet most translations are fully aware that this has nothing to do with the shape of an egg or an oval or spherical shape. It's only mentioned once in the Quran and is very well understood to mean to spread out, flatten, etc. This is typically attributed to how an ostrich makes their nest in the ground. Here are some actual footage of an ostrich demonstrating the verb daha. As you can see, the male ostrich lands on the rugged surface of the earth, ground, and then he dahas the earth, ground. He spreads it out, flattens it, and widens it with his feet and legs. It's a ground nest, and the Arabic term for this is udhi, ostrich nest, and this noun is derived from the verb daha. This is what the verb daha means, to spread out or flatten the ground or earth. It has nothing to do with the ostrich's egg or the shape of an egg. Rather, the surface and shape of the ostrich's nest. Notice how the nest eventually takes a circular shape to lay the eggs, exactly like the circular ice wall here. Hence, the surface of the earth is physically being prepared by Allah as He dahas the earth. This is very important to take note of. This suggests that Allah descended from His throne to finish the creation of earth, because after the 6 days of creation, Allah then sits on His throne. ثُمَّ اسْتَوَى عَلَى الْعَرْشِ. This will be more evident in the next video, phase 3, and Allah knows best. And now, this is where we QTC the other synonyms related to flattening, spreading out the earth, starting with Surah 88 verse 20. And to the earth, how it was Sutihat, flattened, leveled, even, plain, spread out. This Arabic verb, Sutihat, is another straightforward Arabic verb, meaning to flatten, level, even, plain, spread out, etc. Once again, due to the globe earth indoctrination, Some Muslims also use this to suggest that the verb here takes the meaning of its noun form, suth, surface, as in the surface of a ball. Nonetheless, this is simply the Arabic way to say surface, like the surface of the table. Besides that, the noun form also means plane, like flat or level. To easily straighten this out, we just have to look at the context of Surah 88 verse 20. And to the earth how it was Sutihat, flattened. Surface wouldn't apply. Clearly the earth is leveled or flat, as you can see with your own eyes. And that is what this verse precisely describes. On top of that, the most common way to say flat in regards to the earth in Arabic is al-ardul musattaha. Al-musattaha is the active participle derived from the verb sutihat, found in Surah 88 verse 20. The exact verb / active participle. Therefore, there should be no debate about this. And finally, we have Surah 91 verse 6 as follows. And the earth and what he Daha expanded, extended, spread out like a flat surface. This Arabic verb Daha is also mentioned once and means to expand, extend, spread out. We're almost done with all the descriptions of Allah's earth, and there's not a single verse directly or indirectly mentioning if it's round or spherical. Allah would have stated such a clear attribute of earth if it were true, but it's not. Let's see the last description of God's level earth in the following surahs. Surah 13 verse 3, Surah 15 verse 9, and Surah 15 verse 57. And he is the one who Madda, stretched, extended, lengthened, flattened out the earth, Madda al-ard, and he made, placed in it, anchors, seamounts, Rawasiys, and rivers, waterways. We'll see all the rest another time. And the earth we stretched, extended, lengthened, flattened, Madadnaha, and we threw anchors, firm seamounts, Rawasiys, and we grew on it every well-balanced, weighed thing. And the earth we stretched, extended, lengthened, flattened out, Madadnaha, and we threw anchors, firm seamounts, Rawasiys, and we grew on it every delightful, cheerful pair or category. Similar to Surah 91 verse 6, these three verses mention the verb Madda, to stretch, extend, lengthen, flatten out. Pretty straightforward, and nearly everyone is aware of this. In all three verses, we have another key piece of information. Allah made, placed, and threw anchors, firm seamounts, Rawasiys, in plural, on earth. Many translations confuse Rawasiys, firm seamounts, with the Arabic noun jibal, mountains. Although seamounts and mountains are geological formations, they differ significantly in their composition, formation process, and environments. Seamounts are large underwater mountains. Its roots are derived from its verb, to be stationary, fixed, or anchored. And a ship's anchor is called mirsa, a derivative of Rawasiys. They are thrown or dropped underwater to stop or keep a ship stationary. Note how Allah uses the verb to throw in the past tense in Surah 15 verse 19 and Surah 50 verse 7. In other words, they were thrown into earth, just like meteors, but purposefully located. This is where we connect QTC and come back to Surah 79 and continue from verse 30. After Allah dahas the earth, He extracted, brought forth from her, earth, her water and her pasture. Surah 79 verse 31 informs us the earth has her own water. This is an important piece of information confirming what we saw earlier, by which everything was made with water and Earth's formation manifested under extreme pressure, being in Allah's hand. Thus, this is the stage in which water on Earth comes from. And the mountains, Jibal, He anchored, fixed them firmly. Here you have the noun mountains, Jibal, and they are being placed on land. And right after, the verb arsa is another derivative of Rawasiys. This is how those three verses mentioning the earth was Madda and He made, placed in it anchors, firm seamounts, are connected, QTC'd with Surah 79 verse 32. This is also where we know Surah 21 verse 30 came before all this, heavens and earth splitting verse, phase 2, and the CMB radiation stage, along with the March 21 date, because the next verse is inserted QTC'd here too. Surah 21 verse 31. And we have placed on earth anchors, firm seamounts, Rawasiys, lest it should quake, shake with them. And we made ravines, passages therein as ways that they may receive guidance. Firm seamounts therefore reduce the effects of earthquakes. Earth's oceans are often considered one of the least explored places on earth. There's still a lot to find out on this topic, and Allah knows best. In Surah 2771, we'll find out another special detail about Earth. Or, who made the Earth stationary, still, stable, fixed, motionless, not moving? Qarar. And he made rivers in her midst, khilalaha. And he has placed anchors, firm seamounts, Rawasiys, therein. And he made a barrier between the two seas. Is there a God with Allah? Rather, most of them do not know. The beginning of this verse is similarly repeated in Surah 40 verse 64, that the earth is stationary. Qarar. So Surah 27 verse 61 and 40:64 both inform us that earth is stationary, still, stable, fixed, motionless, not moving, which is what qarar means based on the context. If the earth were moving, revolving around the sun and spinning on its supposed axis, as they claim, then the Arabic word qarar would not be mentioned. This by itself should end the heliocentric model if you truly believe in the words of Allah. Besides all that, the special detail about earth in Surah 27 verse 61 is, and he made rivers in her midst, khilalaha. So, from the center of earth, rivers start to flow out. Notice how Rawasiys, anchors, firm seamounts, are mentioned right after, and a barrier separating the two seas is set. This verse describes the North Pole and the Arctic Sea, and at the same time, the magnetic mountain or seamount. It's famously known as Rupes Nigra, Black Rock, or Mount Meru, where the stationary fixed polar star is situated. The fact that Allah mentions He made a barrier between the two seas in this verse is where the Arctic freshwater ice meets the salt water, which Allah made a barrier between the two so they don't mix. That's exactly what we observe even today, also in the Antarctic. And before that, you have the Rawasiys mentioned, indicating firm seamounts. Recall that a seamount is a mountain in the sea or ocean. And as you can see in the Mercator's map of the Arctic, showing the Rupes Nigra at the North Pole, surrounded by 4 large islands. Black Rock, or Mount Meru, is an enormous seamount. Black Rock, Rupes Nigra, or Mount Meru, isn't a legendary or mythical belief and a navigational folklore of the time. That's what they want you to think. Thus, Black Rock or Mount Meru should be considered a seamount which Allah placed given its location at the North Pole and having magnetic properties affecting all compasses, making this an important feature of God's level earth. There are many more verses about plants, trees, clouds, seas, etc. and that can take days to go over as the Quran is fully detailed as you can see. But because we have so much more to go through in this series, it's time for us to get closer to the hour. And that brings us to the last verse regarding Earth's creation in Surah 41 verse 10. And he made therein, the earth, anchors, firm seamounts, Rawasiys, from above it. And he blessed it, and he measured therein its nutrients, nourishments, sustenances, aqwataha, within or in 4 equal full days. For those who question. We'll see this verse in phase 3 with a bit more detail. So now the earth is created, Allah's clock is almost complete. To 4 days to measure earth's nutrients or how long it has to exist, a total of 6 days have elapsed. God's clock is therefore predestined to expire. The Arabic word for the clock is as-sa'a, and as-sa'a is also the word for the hour. To put this into perspective, this formidable clock, God's clock, heaven and earth, is being fine-tuned and prepared for the hour, the day of judgment. And then, on that day, we will all confirm our sequence of events, and then A world where no more time begins, the real life. And this is why measuring time is a must for the first creation, to create the sequence of events for all things and every soul, all possibilities. Indeed, the hour is coming, I am almost hiding it, to recompense every soul, kullu nafs, because of what it strives, endeavors for. Thus, the importance of time tracking in a system is mandatory, and heavens and earth is this timekeeping system with superb accuracy and synchronization with Allah's command and the Day of Judgment. Hence, we are indeed significant in Allah's eye. We are being meticulously tracked in Allah's majestic system and validated in the hereafter to fill our positions. And Allah knows best. And the beginning and end reflect each other, with the hereafter mirroring the start, as Father Abraham said. Travel through earth and look how He began creation. Then Allah will produce the final production of the hereafter. Indeed, Allah is omnipotent, able to do anything. Surah 21 verse 104. The day we roll up the heaven like the rolling up of the scroll for books, writings. Just as we began the first creation, we will repeat it as a promise upon us. Indeed, we got it done. And now it's time for phase 3, the 6th day. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen.